Hey, LCC family. How's it going? Tim and Lauren here.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome to another edition of More Than Sunday. Hope you're staying dry. It's really raining hard right now.
It is dumping outside.
You might even be able to hear it through the, the mics or whatever. But anyway. Lauren loves the rain.
I do.
I don't.
I wish I was home right now.
Yeah.
And in my chair and drinking a cup of coffee and just listening to the rain.
It gives me anxiety because I worked for the power company for so long. And if it's raining, it usually meant I was going to have to go to work. So.
And I guess that meant I was going to be home alone.
Yeah, you're going to be home alone watching chick flicks and stuff. So.
Yeah. So.
There's the thunder. Well, so we are in a series on parenting called Solid Ground, How to Build a Firm Foundation, Building Your Family on a Firm Foundation. I guess subtitle. I don't know. Yeah. So anyways, last week we talked about parents' priority, and that's kind of the starting point.
Yeah.
Is to raise godly children, to set a firm foundation. Really, our foundation is Jesus and our relationship with Him. And so this week, Randy talked about the unchanging principles of parenting.
Yeah. And
just shared with us three principles that, like, wow, there's only three, but they're like incredibly complicated and hard to actually walk out and do. So,
and what's crazy is how they're so normal. It was appropriate touch, loving touch, which really I feel like affection would almost have
affection, physical affection.
But like how almost cringe that can sound. Yeah. And how perverted we've become as a culture. That even has to be said, and then that even makes you want to say affection versus touch, because we have gone so far from what's normal. And what I see on social media, like if a mom hugs her son, they're like, "Oh God, that's mom's sons are so weird," and it's like, what? It's just like how far we've come, and that you're almost like nervous about showing affection in public. Ooh,
there's the thunder.
Scared me, because of that, and kind of the way so many people have distorted it and made it.
Yeah, it's our perverted culture that they take everything, and hey, I was a part of that for a while myself, and just that when your mind is not clean, when you're filling your mind with things that are twisted, and you can twist every good thing, and that's how the enemy works. He twists every good thing into something wrong. Yeah.
So, but we saw how important it is, that story that Randy told about the study where they didn't touch the infants, and there was like...
Yeah, they didn't speak. They were trying to
see what language
these babies would speak if not taught any language.
Yeah.
And so they didn't touch the babies. They didn't speak to them.
And then they all
fed
died.
them. And and then within a year they all died.
Which is just heartbreaking, but you just realize the importance of healthy...
Not worth the experiment.
Yeah. God, that was like... Yeah. Where that was going was not what I expected. When they said they weren't touching them, I was like, they're gonna, and they all passed, which is just heartbreaking. So you just realize the importance of parental figures in a child's life, and just the importance of it. And we're by no means experts.
No, we're figuring this out as we go.
We have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we have no idea what we're doing because they are two polar opposite children. And it has been a tough 7 years. We have so much more gray hair now, and so
we've kind of run the gamut on the affection, even though we're not like into the teenage years. But because of some of Edda's disabilities starting out, she was not affectionate.
Not at all.
So we actually had to really work on that for her. And so now both our kids are pretty affectionate. Well, Elias is getting more affectionate.
Yeah, he is.
He was kind of like
I was way getting the cold shoulder for about 2 years with Elias, and people from church would come up to me and be like, I don't think Elias likes me. And I'd be like, I'm his mom, and I question if he likes me. Yeah. And so now he's really had this total change of heart, and he's like, I love you, Mom, and just like constant. And now I'm like, oh man, he's really making up for that lost time.
And you do notice, like, I mean, there was a point where like Etta liked to wrestle, but as she's gotten a little older, she just wants to be like hugged, or hold hands or something like that. Yeah. She's like
lean on you.
Yeah, she wants to lean. But like Elias is definitely, because Randy talked about the differences between boys and girls. I can definitely see it. Like Elias, he wants to like wrestle. He wants to kind of like.
But he also knows like that's not my jam. So he'll say, "Mommy, let's go cuddle in your chair," and like, yes, and I'm like, oh, and if it's raining, even better. But like that just makes my heart so happy. Is that? Because that's my jam. Yeah. I'm not much of a wrestler, and I don't enjoy that at all. But there was a season with Etta and with her sensory processing disorder of that when we would try and hold her at night to lay her down to go to bed, she would scream and cry, and she didn't want to be held. Yeah. And then once we put her down, then she would scream and cry because we put her down. Mm-hmm. And that was a really, really difficult, I guess, about a year before we finally got her diagnosed, and we were trying to figure out why is she crying all the time. And people will be like, oh, just do the cried out method. And then we tried that and it never worked. And they're like, you have to keep going. It's going to take more than a couple weeks. And I'm like, I think we've been doing it 6 months. It was like the worst. So we tried everything, like every different sleep method, and none of them worked. And then we realized now she has some different neurological things that are going on that make it more difficult. And so, but now through therapy, now she's more accepting of physical touch and loves it and is a hugger. Yeah. But there was a season where I thought, when I remember our first trip to Disney, she had just started therapy. And so I'd been showing her videos of like what Mickey Mouse looked like. And so, because they say kids with, those kind of disabilities, like the more they see it, the more they're accepting of it. So I was like, okay, this is what Disney's going to look like. These are the rides. And so I showed her videos of Mickey so that maybe she'd be like comfortable in meeting him. And I remember when we opened the door and then you got to meet Mickey, she ran to him and hugged him and laid her head down. Yeah. And this is why we love Disney now. Yeah. Is I cried so hard, and it wasn't because it was Mickey. It was because she was letting.
I cried because it's Mickey.
It was because she let Mickey touch her. Yeah. And hold her, and like she went for it. And I remember thinking like, therapy is working. It's helping. And I remember just thinking like, whatever this cost, I want to bring her back to do this. And we do. We see a jump in her abilities and her speaking and her sensory issues after we come back from a trip, because it really pushes her. Yeah. There's lots of sounds, transitions, noises, and so
lots of scary stuff for her.
Yeah. Yeah. So
but then lots of opportunity for us to be there physically for her and just, tell her it's okay, encourage her, and then we get to help her get through it, all those scary things, and then she comes out stronger on the other side. Yeah. Knowing that she can do it. Yeah. That's kind of a lot of put a lot of energy into that aspect of our parenting with her. Yeah. And so, you see there is definitely a need, because like even so she struggled with processing all that. Yeah. But it was a deep need for her to have physical affection. Yes. And when she was more comfortable with that, it opened her up. She kind of started to blossom. Well, it's kind of funny because it's like when we were holding her, she would cry, and it was like she didn't like being held. And then when we would set her down, she cried because she didn't want to not be held. And it was just like the craziest thing. And so everything we learned about Etta, just throw it out the window, because none of that is the same for Elias. Yeah. And that's the challenge of parenting. Is like we could sit here and tell you exactly what we did with our kids up to this point, and it's not going to work with your kids. And that's where faith comes in. It's like I don't know how you move forward and do your best without the knowledge that, well, I don't have to have this because I know God is with us, and He's going to show us a way. Because there were so many doors that He opened for Etta that, had we not, been walking with them, like we might not have heard these, because the Lord spoke to you and kind of pushed you some certain directions, and I was kind of not like, wanting to confront some of the problems, and
I knew at a very early time that Etta had some issues, and anytime I talked to people about it, they'd be like, no.
Yeah, I just didn't want to believe there was something wrong,
Yeah, and so, but this is my makeup, is that I'm kind of a pusher through, like, no, I really believe this. And when we finally got her tested, not only did she have sensory processing disorder, but they were like, she's incredibly severe. And it was like, oh, it wasn't like, of course you hope as a parent that they're gonna be like, it's mild, it's not a big deal, it's gonna be so easy, just do like a month of therapy. So here we are 5 years later, she has tons of help in school and pull out in school, and so, but
yeah, she's getting there.
Yeah, she is. So, she's a great kid, though.
Yeah, she's awesome. So we're learning, we're walking through all that. And so gosh, physical affection for us just as humans is good. So I'm going to read this. This is kind of the basis of what the whole sermon on Sunday was about. Matthew 19:13 through 15. One day, some parents brought their children to Jesus. Great thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. So he could lay his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples scolded the parents for bothering him. But Jesus said, let the children come to me. Don't stop them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are like these children. And he placed his hands on their heads and blessed them before he left. So, I mean, Jesus knows. Like, who's the biggest proponent of kids and kids ministry? Jesus. Yeah. And so he knew just the physical, just like, hey, I love you, reassuring that comes from that. And I think in our world, we've associated, all affection with like, it must be sexual. There must be something someone else is trying to get out of it. Yeah. And like, even like male to male, like, it's good for males to be affectionate. Like, my best friend, Joe, I hug him, I hug him for a long time. It makes, and so we used to work together. Yeah. We used to work together. And man, we just have, big bear hugs, and we would actually have some work meetings and stuff. And when I'd see him, I'd just give him a big hug. And it would make everybody so uncomfortable, because it's just like in that environment, I guess any show of affection just must mean something's like, ooh, like, are you guys boyfriend and boyfriend? And I would say yes. Yes. But yeah, it's just so good. It's friendship, affection, and the right kind of affection is really important, and it's important to teach to our kids. Yeah. Because everybody else is just waiting to teach them about it, teach what they want, about it. So, so then the next thing was abundant time. Yeah. And I mean, I could say a lot about this because we're really busy, and I'm sure you are too. Because I feel like, of course, this is me being in the situation that I'm in this time and era, but like, I'm wondering if any parents have been busier than parents are today.
I don't know. Unless when like during the early, like the late 1800s, when they were like out having to farm.
Yeah, maybe.
And the kids were also having to work.
Yeah. Could be, yeah. Yeah. Running around in wagons and stuff.
Oh, I just think the demand is so high, and just the fact that both parents are working, and like we're one of the first generations for that to happen. And that to be almost a necessity. Like it was like women were like begging for it, and then now we're just getting to do it.
No. Please no.
Yeah. Like, please no, I'd rather stay home.
I don't have anything to prove.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't. I love the option, but now it's become this necessity with the way things are financially now. Yeah. So
yeah, there's a lot of financial pressure and maybe status pressure too. Yeah. So like I didn't come from a very well-off family, but we had what we needed, but we definitely, there's just stuff that we didn't have. And even at a young age, I worked so that I could buy clothes, for myself. So, innately as a man, and kind of what the culture tells you is like, well, the best thing you can do for your family is to produce, provide for them.
Right.
And sometimes that's real heavy they're real heavy-handed on describing. So, like, what's the definition of a good man? Well, a good man provides for his family and makes sure that they have the things that he never had.
Right.
And that's kind of like the American dream.
Yeah.
But, like, sometimes that can go overboard because I stayed there. I was a lineman at the power company, which means I climbed poles and strung wire. And when the lights went out, usually when it was raining or storming or anything, I'd be out working trying to get the lights on. So I took as many calls as I could, feeling like, hey, you know, I'm doing the right thing by being at work as much as possible so I can make as much money as possible. Yeah. But really, I think that, you know, time is way more valuable. And so it took a long time, but God worked on my heart on that. And I'm not saying that if you're a lineman and you do that kind of work, it's bad or anything. I'm just saying that it's important to have balance.
Yeah.
And so I traded a lot of time for money. And I don't know where that money went. But
when you weren't home, it meant that I was alone a lot.
Yeah.
So we ate out a lot.
Yeah.
And I shopped a lot because I was home alone all the time.
Yeah.
5 out of 7 evenings.
Yeah.
So I don't miss that time at all. And my love language is time.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't getting that. So I definitely replaced that with shopping.
Yeah.
Because I love shopping.
And so really the best thing you can do as a man is like, yes, to provide.
Yeah.
But then also, I mean, your family wants you.
Yeah.
God puts you in that family to give them you.
Now, if you're away one evening,
oh man,
Edda's like, I miss Daddy.
I know.
And she is freaking out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 2 years ago, you were never home.
Yeah.
And so she's become spoiled because you are, I mean, most evenings you are home.
Yeah.
And so that's really hard for her.
I mean, and I have a different job now that allows me to be home more, but even in that job, I had to make some decisions that they were hard because in that environment, you're kind of like, your reputation is like, well, how much does he work? And how often does he say yes to overtime? And so I had to make some decisions along the way and say like, well, no, I'm going to say no. Yeah. If that hurts my reputation here, I'm just going to have to live with it because I'd rather live with that than the reputation I have at home.
Looking back, you realize that now that you're out of that job, that you lived with a lot of fear.
Oh, yeah.
Over what that looked like and just the constant balance. And so you understand it is really hard to say no to a job that is paying your bills.
Yeah, it is hard.
You know.
And there's some times, you know, we're all going to have to be principled and say like, yeah, this is my job, but it does something for me, but the reason I'm here is because of this family, so I can't sacrifice my family.
Yeah.
So that I can do this. So it's hard. It's a difficult balance, and you need the Lord's help with it. Yeah. You know, wisdom and discernment in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then the third principle was encouraging talk.
Encouraging talk. This is my struggle point right now. Just because, you know, I just feel like a lot, you know, when you have young kids, I find myself, it's like, yeah, I'm getting onto them constantly. So one of the statistics that Randy brought up was that for every negative word, it takes 7 positive words to counteract that one negative word.
Yeah.
And I'm not insulting my kids constantly or anything, but a lot of times there's more negative things to address than I'm probably praising, you know, and
it's hard.
It's hard.
Which is funny because you're definitely more of a words of affirmation kind of guy, and I am not naturally.
Yeah.
So it is. I'd say this is a difficult one for me too. Is, you know, it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah, because I mean, when you have young kids, there is a lot of correcting going on.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, sometimes it can't just be that, you know, and I need to do more work on finding ways to praise and appreciate and, you know, not just physical affection, but just like verbal affection.
Yeah.
And it's really important because it helps your kid's identity.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
and I love compliments. And I know Randy mentioned this where it's like, I love you because I talk to you about this a lot because I'm not a words of affirmation person. It's like, you're great. Well, why am I great?
Just great.
You're just great. But it's just like, no, like, why? And that you need to hear it 3 or 4 times for it to even like almost sink in, where it's like, no, I love your idea about this or how you do this. I prefer that kind of words of affirmation when they are given to me, because I don't love them. But with our kids, it's so, you like to pinpoint why, what's great, because it's easy because Etta is so pretty. I don't want that to be the compliment that she always receives. And it is a compliment she receives from
I love you because you're pretty. If you weren't pretty, I don't know.
No, but she just hears that a lot. And I just don't want her to feel like if something changed or something, I don't want it to all be about looks for her, because she is so kind and thoughtful. And I want her to know that she has more value than just her beautiful curly hair.
It takes creativity to do that, And it's like on top of all the other things you're doing as a parent. You need to be a little bit more creative. I mean, but we do. So one of the verses that Randy quoted about words, Proverbs 18:21 says, "A tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences." And so it's like, ooh, but that's also good consequences. So you'll reap the bad and the good. And so, we can bring death or life into our kids' life and identity and, the place that the lens that they view the world through. And so it's really, that's a big responsibility. That's heavy, but we're not doing it alone. We're doing it with the grace of God. And, that takes inviting his presence into our life. By reading his word, studying, and just asking for help in these areas. And so as I was looking that up, I passed this other proverb that then really was like, ugh. So Proverbs 18:9, "A lazy person is as bad as one who destroys things." And I think as parents, we can look back and say like, well, I'm not being destructive. But if we're lazy and we let things go and we don't find those ways to be more present, we don't find those ways to be more encouraging, we correct a little bit more than we praise. If we let it slide, we're still, destroying stuff. And it's hard. And I think that's everything in the Christian life. We're just constantly moving forward, pushing forward, working on things, becoming more and more like Jesus. And the moment we kind of stop and sit back, immediately starts to slide backwards. And so it's a challenge. So I just wanted to encourage you. No, it's a challenge. We're all doing it. We're all walking through that. And so you're not alone. And again, the Lord promises that he's given us everything we need to live a godly life. And that he's with us. He promises never to leave us or abandon us or forsake us. And so I just want to encourage you in that. Parent out there struggling with all these things, we're with you on it, and the Lord's with you. So, well, we'll see what happens next week. What else are we going to get into and
get challenged by?
Get challenged. I was
challenged, for sure.
Yeah. So we hope that this impacts your heart like it does ours, and that you just take it to the Lord, and that you're just encouraged this week. And we love you guys. We'll see you Sunday. Stay dry out there.
See ya.